I enjoy what I do, and responding to these flat earthers and conspiracy theorists, whilst it is required, is overall a harmless endeavour. However, sometimes you come across a conspiracy theory that has much wider reaching implications, both psychologically and emotionally.
Hey YouTube, it is Veracity here. Today I'm going to be busting open the ridiculous nonsense Challenger disaster.
Long-time viewers of the channel will know that I've touched on this before in previous videos, but today we're going to take a proper look at the absolutely appalling people that don't believe that the Challenger space shuttle disaster ever happened. And welcome to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday, a much more serious one today. Thank you all very much for joining me. My name is Simon Dan and I'll be your host for the next 15 minutes or so. That opening clip was from YouTuber Veracity, and if you look at his channel you'll see that it is very anti-space. However, on this outing he's taken exception to the Challenger space shuttle disaster and doesn't think that it really happened. Now, of course, the normal people of this world know that this disaster did actually happen, but there are a small group of conspiracy theorists and some flat earthers that have latched onto this idea and they're running with it. For me, it's an absolutely appalling accusation. People lost their lives and families were deeply affected, and I cannot simply let this go unchecked. So let's sit back and address Veracity's video point by point.
Welcome to Costco. I love you. Welcome to Costco. I love you. Welcome to Costco. I love you.
Okay, not weird at all.
Hey YouTube, it is Veracity here. Today I'm going to be busting open the ridiculous nonsense Challenger disaster from... So first thing first here is we want to look at the explosion itself and how tiny it was. I'm going to go through some of the stats after we see this nonsense here. So this is the CNN report on it. You can see here how there's an explosion. You know, they're really zoomed in, so the explosion looks somewhat big, and the solid booster rockets just continue to, do what model rockets do. They fly into the air. And so what we're going to do is first focus on the size of this explosion right here, and then we're going to compare it to actual rocket disasters in history.
Before we continue, I want to make 2 points here. Firstly, this wasn't an explosion in the normal sense that we understand it. It was more of an ignition of all the liquid oxygen and hydrogen that was in the external fuel tank. It was found that one of the rocket boosters that we saw flying off after the accident had a problem with one of its seals due to the cold weather. This resulted in hot gas leaking out, and it ripped a hole in the external fuel tank, igniting all of the fuel inside. Secondly, when the Challenger exploded, it was at an altitude of 14,000 meters. 14 kilometers high. Bear that in mind.
So get a good look at how tiny this little explosion is. Just a little tiny, burst of cloud. Very tiny. And now what we're going to look at is the 1965 Atlas Centaur 5 rocket. And look at this explosion size. Holy cow. Now that's an explosion from 1965. I mean, look at how big this blast is compared to the
In this case, there were
fake
no
shuttle.
human casualties.
I mean, look at how big
The
this blast
catastrophe was not the result of individual.
compared to this little tiny little thing.
Well, firstly, there was different fuel involved. The Atlas V used kerosene rather than liquid oxygen and hydrogen. And then you have to take into account that viewing an explosion on the ground right next to it is going to look a lot bigger than 14 kilometers away.
It's a little tiny little thing. It looks like a jet airplane contrail.
No, I won't comment on that one.
Now that we've gone through this, I'm going to go through some of the actual specifications just to hammer this thing home for you people. Okay, so first off, what I wanted to tell everybody was that this tank here, was empty. Okay, so this thing would take off from the launch pad. The large external tank was actually completely empty, which is what you see in the CNN footage of the explosion. Nothing happened, basically.
Oh no, I think he's been watching too much CC.
And he discussed how possibly the middle rocket, that's the orange rocket, is actually filled with helium. And these things are like bouncy houses.
The thing was completely empty from takeoff. So, just a couple interesting facts here. So, you go to NASA's own, website, and they claim that the external tank's gross pound weight was 1,667,677. So 666,777.
No, it's 667,677, not 666,777. That's the problem with you conspiracy theorists, people. You will literally pluck numbers from anywhere and make them suit your narrative.
Hidden in plain sight in the weight of this alleged thing. It's just complete nonsense.
Yes, indeed it is. Looking for numbers that aren't there is indeed nonsense.
So basically, this huge tank here, was virtually empty when they took this thing off. So it would take off from the launch pad, and then they would ditch it into the ocean a couple miles away.
Well, that bit is partly true. Once the external fuel tank has used up all its fuel, it will be ditched.
So the entire Challenger, thing was staged and faked, right from the beginning.
You have no evidence whatsoever to support that statement. Not one shred. It is fanatical speculation.
One quick little factoid here. This is the Krista Memorial. She was the first civilian that was supposed to go to space, and she allegedly died in the accident. And you load up your trusty Gematrinator, and you type in CHRISTA, boom, 33.
So?
There you go. Oh, but wait. There's more. There's a lot more. So you punch in, you skip the MIC, okay, and you type in AULIFFE, boom, 33.
I think this has got something to do with it being a master number or something, and apparently it means something in conspiracy circles. I don't know. To me, it's just a number, a random number. Besides, I went on the website and guess what? Simon Dan? 33. You know what else is 33? Mexico. Porno. And toddler. Better watch out for those toddlers, guys. Stay safe. He does a little bit more magic number stuff, and then he moves on to the crew.
Like, I went to, Snopes to see what they're debunking of the fact that a bunch of the Challenger astronauts are still alive. And, it's pretty funny, because they say it's false here, right? But then they go through the Snopes loser New World Order guys. They go through this thing, and their argument, that these people have the same name and that they aren't the same people. Okay, so it's one thing if you have the same name. Okay, I mean, that can be a random coincidence, I suppose. But that you also look the same? What are the odds that you're going to have the same name and look the same?
First off, they don't look much the same. Secondly, if you're going to cover up the fact that you faked a space shuttle disaster, you're definitely going to let the astronaut involved keep the same name. 100%. No one will notice. Now I check this, and there are currently 8 people living in the US called Richard Scobie. 8. Probably not hard to find one that looks a bit similar.
And the Snopes guy, I was hoping that the Snopes guy guys were going to refute that it was just a complete fabrication completely. But the Snopes guys admit that these people actually exist, and they do look. They show their pictures here. They do look super similar. It's just hilarious. And the other thing too is that the number of identical twins in society is about 1 in 335 or something. But the number of astronauts that have identical twins is like 1 in 5.
Probably more stats you're pulling from your own arse.
1 in 3, 1 in 4, like 1 in 5 at the maximum. And I'm being nice here. And then the Snopes guys just go through to say that these people are their brothers, so they have a resemblance, even though they use the same name. So like this woman here, is like literally using the same name. And they also look super similar. I mean, just age adjusted, basically.
They look completely different. Totally different faces. Here is a clip from a previous video where I went through 3 of the astronauts and explained exactly what's going on.
What he's probably seen is a picture like this, or a slightly different variation of it, or a YouTube video or something. Now, if Mr. Warrior had actually looked into it and done some research, not flat earth research, but proper research, he would have found out that this is all a hoax. The man on the left of this picture is the commander of Challenger, Francis Scobie. The man on the right is also Francis Scobie, who during the time of the launch was CEO and president of the Marketing Edge Inc. out of Chicago. Clearly not the same guy. I mean, they've got completely different shaped chins. What about this one? The man on the left of this picture is Challenger mission specialist Ellison Onizaka. The man on the right is his brother Claude. And this one. The lady on the left of this picture is Sharon McAuliffe, a teacher who was selected out of 11,000 applicants to be the first civilian in space. The lady on the right doesn't even look like her, and we're supposed to believe that they're the same person, despite the fact that at the time of the launch, Sharon McAuliffe on the right was working for a law firm in New York. That's just 3 examples, and it's the same for all the others.
Veracity goes on for a further 10 minutes or so, trying to point out more irregularities. But at this point, I couldn't watch anymore. This conspiracy theory angers me more than most. Real people died, real families grieved, and real workers who witnessed it and were in and around that disaster have lived with it ever since. The Challenger disaster was real. It happened. It was an incredibly trying time for both NASA and the American people as a whole. But they came out the other side, and they've gone on to achieve great things. Right, that wraps up another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday. Thanks so much for joining me. I really hope you got something out of this one today. If you liked it and enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe for more of the same. I have been Simon Dan, and I'll see you all on Friday for some more Flat Earth fun. Until then.